Sasha Taylor kept her head down as she navigated the crowded hallways of Willowbrook High School. At 16, she was the new girl again, her fourth school in 6 years, thanks to her father's diplomatic career. Each move meant starting over, learning. New faces, new rules, new social hierarchies that shifted like quicksand beneath her feet. At 5'6", with an athletic build that she tried to hide under loose-fitting clothes, dark hair pulled back in a simple ponytail, and hazel eyes that seemed to take in everything while revealing nothing, Sasha had learned to become invisible. It was a survival skill she perfected over the years. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from. And if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow, I've saved something extra special for you, what no one at Willowbrook knew. What no one at any of her schools ever knew at first was that Sasha had been training in Krav Maga since she was 8 years old. Her older brother Zach, a former military officer, had insisted she learn to defend herself after their third move when she'd come home with a black eye from a particularly cruel group of kids. True strength isn't about hurting others, Zach had told her during their first training session. It's about knowing when not to fight. 8 years of intensive training had transformed her into a weapon disguised as a quiet teenager. She could neutralize threats twice her size without breaking a sweat, but Maya never advertised this fact. Fighting was only for self-defense, never for showing off. Willowbrook High was a sprawling brick building that housed nearly 2,000 students divided into clear social strata. Sasha had been there for exactly 1 week, and she'd already mapped out the danger zones: the back hallway near the gym, the smoking area behind the cafeteria, and the main stairwell where the self-proclaimed royalty of the school held court. That royalty was led by Jason Knight, a senior with perfectly styled blonde hair, expensive clothes, and a smile that could charm teachers and intimidate students equal measure. His main followers were Kyle Morrison, a linebacker with more muscle than sense, and surprisingly, Lily Adams, a girl who seemed to have fallen from grace, but still clung to her place in Jason's shadow. Sasha had heard whispers about them before. She'd even found her locker on the first day. Stay away from Jason and his crew, a girl named Emily Chun had warned her quietly in chemistry class. They pick someone new every semester. For the first week, Sasha had successfully avoided their attention. She took alternate routes between classes, ate lunch in the library, and made herself as forgettable as possible. But invisibility, she was learning, had a limited shelf life. "You're Sasha, right?" The voice belonged to Ava Johnson, a girl from her English class who had been trying to befriend her since day one. Ava was everything. Sasha wasn't outgoing, confident, quick to laugh. She slid into the seat across from Sasha in the library, ignoring the quiet study signs. "Yeah," Sasha replied, not looking up from her book. "You know, you don't have to eat alone every day. There's a whole cafeteria full of people who don't bite." Sasha finally looked up, meeting Ava's concerned brown eyes. "I'm fine here. Are you though?" Ava leaned forward. "I've seen you around. You look like you're waiting for something bad to happen." Something bad is always about to happen, Sasha thought, but she just shrugged. "I prefer quiet places." Ava studied her for a moment, then nodded. "Okay, but if you ever change your mind, I sit with Emily Chun and a few others. We're not the cool kids, but we're not bad either." As Ava walked away, Sasha felt a strange pang of regret. In another life, maybe she could have been friends with someone like Ava, but friendship meant staying in one place long enough to build trust, and Sasha had learned not to get too comfortable anywhere. It began, as these things often do, with something small. Sasha was hurrying to chemistry class, arms full of books, when she rounded a corner and nearly collided with Kyle Morrison. "Watch it," he snapped, looking her up and down with narrowed eyes. "Sorry," Sasha mumbled, sidestepping him and continuing on her way. "Hey," he called after her. "You're new, right? What's your name?" Sasha hesitated, then answered without turning around. Sasha. Sasha, he repeated, drawing out the syllables mockingly. Better watch where you're going next time. Sasha. She could feel his eyes on her back as she walked away, and something in her stomach tightened. She recognized that evaluating look, the look of a predator sizing up potential prey. The next day, it was Jason himself who slid into the seat next to her in the cafeteria, when she'd thought it was safe to eat there instead of the library. So, you're the new mystery girl, he said conversationally, as if they were old friends. Sasha from nowhere. Sasha kept her eyes on her food, just trying to eat lunch. Jason grinned. See, the thing is, new girl, there's a certain way things work around here. Rule number 1 is knowing your place. He leaned closer, his voice dropping. And your place isn't sitting alone, being all mysterious and interesting. Your place is, well, I'm not sure yet, but we'll figure it out. Sasha felt her muscles tense, her body instinctively preparing for a threat. She consciously relaxed, focusing on her breathing the way Zach had taught her. This isn't a fight. You can't fight. Here. Thanks for the welcome, she said flatly, gathering her things. But I can find my own place. Jason's hand shot out, not quite touching her wrist but close enough to make his point. That's not how this works, Sasha. See, I like to know about all the new students, especially the ones who think they're too good to socialize. For a split second, Sasha calculated exactly how she could neutralize the threat Jason represented. How easily she could break his grip. How quickly she could put him in a hold that would leave him gasping. But instead, she did what was expected. Of the quiet new girl, she pulled away and walked out of the cafeteria, the sound of laughter following her. That afternoon, Lily Adams cornered her near the lockers. You think you're special, don't you? Lily's voice was sharp with an edge that seemed born of her own insecurities. Walking around like you're better than everyone else. Sasha looked at her, really looked. Lily was pretty in a harsh way, with bleached blonde hair and too much makeup that couldn't quite hide the sadness in her eyes. She was trying so hard to maintain her position in Jason's group that she was willing to attack anyone who might threaten the delicate balance. I don't think I'm better than anyone, Sasha said quietly. Right, Lily laughed bitterly. That's why you won't sit with anyone, won't talk to anyone. You're just so above it all. I'm just trying to get through the day, Sasha replied, closing her locker. Well, here's a tip for getting through the day at Willowbrook. Lily stepped closer, her voice dropping to a whisper. Don't make enemies of the wrong people. The incidents escalated from there. Sasha's books were knocked out of her hands regularly. Someone jammed gum in her locker. Whispers followed her in the hallways, rumors about why she'd transferred. Crude jokes about her appearance, her clothes, her quiet demeanor. In gym class, it got worse. Kyle and Lily worked together to make her life miserable during volleyball, accidentally spiking balls at her head, making loud comments about her form, laughing when she missed plays. Come on, Sasha, Kyle called out during one particularly brutal game. I thought new girl would be better at this. Where's all that mysterious confidence now? From the sidelines, Jason watched with obvious amusement, occasionally calling out encouragement to his friends. The gym teacher, Mr. Rodriguez, seemed oblivious to the targeted harassment, treating it as normal teenage competition. It was Emily Chen who finally spoke up, approaching Sasha after class. They're doing it on purpose, Emily said quietly as they walked toward the locker room. Kyle and Lily, they're trying to make you look bad. I know, Sasha replied. Are you going to do anything about it? Telling and preparing this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel. It means a lot to us. Now back to the story. Sasha looked at Emily, really looked at her. She was small, with straight black hair and intelligent dark eyes behind wire-rimmed glasses. There was something in her expression that suggested she understood what it felt like to be targeted. What would you suggest? Sasha asked. Emily shrugged. I don't know. Tell someone? Fight back? Most people just try to avoid them until they get bored and move on to someone else. How long does that usually take? Depends on how much fun they're having. Emily's voice was grim. Last year, they focused on a kid named Marcus for 3 months. He ended up transferring. That night, Sasha trained harder than usual in the converted garage that served as her home gym. She worked through combinations on the heavy bag, her hands a blur of precise strikes. Each punch carried the frustration of the day, the anger at being targeted, the exhaustion of constantly being on guard. Rough day? Zach appeared in the doorway, still in his business suit from his job at the embassy. Same as always, Sasha replied, not breaking her rhythm. Want to talk about it? Sasha finally stopped, turning to face her brother. At 28, Zach was still every inch the soldier tall, lean, with the same hazel eyes that seemed to see everything. He'd been her rock through every move, every new school, every challenge. There's this group at school, she said finally. They've decided I'm their new target. Zach's expression darkened. Physical? Not yet. Just the usual stuff: harassment, humiliation tactics, social isolation. You could end it, Zach said quietly. You know that, right? You have the skills. You also taught me that fighting should be the last resort. I did, Zach studied her face. But I also taught you that there's a difference between avoiding unnecessary violence and allowing yourself to be victimized. So what do? You trust your instincts. You know the difference between someone who's testing boundaries and someone who's actually dangerous. When the time comes, you'll know. The time came on a Thursday afternoon in the school parking lot. Sasha was walking to her father's car when Jason, Kyle, and Lily surrounded her, blocking her path. Going somewhere, mystery girl? Jason's voice was different now, harder, more aggressive. There was something in his eyes that made Sasha's training kick in immediately. Just going home, she said, her voice steady despite the adrenaline coursing through her veins. See, that's the problem. Jason stepped closer. You keep running away from conversations. That's rude, Sasha. We're trying to be friendly. This is friendly? Sasha looked around at the three of them, noting their positions, calculating distances and angles. It could be, Lily said with a cold smile, if you'd just learn to show some respect. Respect? Sasha's voice carried a warning that none of them recognized. What exactly do you want from me? An apology, Jason said simply. For being rude. For thinking you're better than everyone else. For making our school less harmonious. I haven't done anything to apologize for, haven't you? Jason's hand moved toward her face, slow and deliberate. Let me help you understand. That's when Sasha's self-control snapped. Jason's hand never reached her face. In one fluid motion, Sasha caught his wrist, twisted it behind his back, and had him in a control hold before he could even register what was happening. The movement was so fast, so precise, that Kyle and Lily froze in shock. Don't touch me. Sasha's voice was calm, almost conversational, but there was steel underneath that made Jason's struggle stop immediately. What the hell? Kyle started forward, but Sasha's free hand came up in a gesture that stopped him cold. I suggest you back off, she said, her eyes never leaving Kyle's. Unless you want to join him. For a moment, the parking lot was silent, except for Jason's ragged breathing as he tried to process what had just happened. Then Sasha released him, stepping back with her hands at her sides. I don't want any trouble, she said quietly. I just want to be left alone. Jason straightened. His shirt, his face red with humiliation and anger. You think this is over? You think you can just... I think, Sasha interrupted, that you should be very careful about what you do next. Because now you know what I'm capable of. She turned and walked toward her father's car, leaving the three of them standing and stunned. Silence. By the next morning, the story had spread through Willowbrook High like wildfire. The details grew more dramatic with each telling. Sasha had fought off 3 attackers. She'd put Jason in the hospital. She was some kind of trained assassin. The truth was complicated enough. Sasha found herself the subject of whispered conversations and staring eyes. Some students looked at her with newfound respect, others with fear, and a few with skepticism. Is it true? Ava appeared at Sasha's locker, her eyes wide with curiosity. Did you really take down Jason Knight? It wasn't a fight, Sasha said carefully. It was self-defense. Emily saw the whole thing from her car, Ava continued. She said you moved like something out of a movie. Sasha glanced around the hallway, noting how many students were watching their conversation. It's not a big deal. Not a big deal? Ava laughed. Sasha, Jason Knight has been the king of this school for 3 years. Nobody stands up to him. Nobody. Maybe that's the problem, Sasha said quietly. During lunch, Emily approached her table in the library. Mind if I sit? Emily asked, already pulling out a chair. Go ahead. I wanted to thank you, Emily said without preamble. For what? For showing everyone that Jason isn't untouchable. Do you know how many kids he's bullied over the years? How? Many students have transferred or switched schools because of him. Sasha looked at Emily's earnest face. I wasn't trying to make a statement. I was just defending myself. Sometimes that's all it takes, Emily said. Sometimes one person standing up changes everything. But change, Sasha was learning, came with consequences. By the end of the week, she'd received a mixture of reactions that left her feeling more isolated than ever. Some students approached her with obvious respect. Others gave her a wide berth. And a few seemed to be testing her, trying to provoke. A reaction. Jason himself had been surprisingly quiet, but Sasha could feel his eyes on her throughout the day. She knew this wasn't over. If anything, she'd made it worse by humiliating him in front of his followers. The confrontation came on a Monday morning near the main stairwell. Jason was waiting for her, but this time he was alone. His usual confidence was replaced by something harder, more desperate. We need to talk, he said, blocking her path. I don't think we do. Yes, we do. Jason's voice was tight with controlled anger. You embarrassed me in front of the whole school. You made me look weak. I defended myself. That's all. That's all. Jason stepped closer, and Sasha noticed the tremor in his hands. Do you know what my father said when he heard about this? Do you know what it's like to have your old man tell you that you got beaten up by a girl? For the first time, Sasha saw past Jason's carefully constructed facade. Behind the anger and humiliation was something else: fear. Fear of not being strong enough, fear of disappointing someone, fear of losing control. I'm sorry your father reacted that way, she said quietly. But that's not my problem, isn't it? Jason's voice cracked slightly. You think you can just come here and upset the whole balance of things? You think there are no consequences? What do you want, Jason? I want you to apologize, publicly, in front of everyone who saw what happened. Sasha studied his face, noting the desperation beneath the bravado. And if I don't? Then I make your life here impossible. You think what happened before was bad. You haven't seen anything yet. Is that a threat? It's a promise. Sasha felt the familiar calm that came over her before a fight. But this time, she recognized something else: an opportunity. Or, she said slowly, you could try a different approach. What do you mean? I mean, maybe the problem isn't that someone stood up to you. Maybe the problem is that you needed someone to stand up to you in the first place. Jason's face flushed red. You don't know anything about me. I know what it's like to be afraid, Sasha said. I know what it's like to feel like you have to prove yourself all the time. I know what it's like to move through the world, feeling like everyone's watching, waiting for you to fail. That's not. The difference is, Sasha continued, I don't take it out on other people. For a moment, Jason looked like he might say something real, something honest. Then his mask slipped back into place. "This isn't over," he said, but there was less conviction in his voice than before. "It could be," Sasha replied. "Anytime you want it to be." The idea came to her during a conversation with Ava and Emily at lunch. "I keep thinking about what you said," Emily was saying. "About how sometimes one person standing up changes everything. But what if it could be more than that?" "What do you mean?" Sasha asked. "What if you could teach other people to stand up for themselves? What if you could teach them what you know?" Sasha considered this. "You mean like a self-defense class?" "Exactly." Ava jumped in, her eyes bright with excitement. "Think about how many kids here could use those skills. Not just to fight, but to feel confident, to know they can protect themselves." "I don't know," Sasha said slowly. "Teaching fighting techniques to teenagers could be dangerous." "But you wouldn't be teaching them to fight," Emily pointed out. "You'd be teaching them to defend themselves. There's a difference, right?" There was a difference, Sasha knew. Zach had taught her that difference from the beginning. Self-defense wasn't about aggression, it was about confidence, awareness, and the ability to protect yourself when necessary. "I'd have to talk to the principal," she said finally. "And I'd need permission from the school." "Principal Green is pretty cool," Ava said. "I bet he'd go for it, especially if you frame it as an anti-bullying initiative." That afternoon, Sasha found herself in Principal Green's office, explaining her idea. "Self-defense classes?" Principal Green leaned back in his chair, considering. "And you're qualified to teach these?" "I've been training in Krav Maga for 8 years, Sasha said. "My brother is a former military officer who taught me. I know the difference between self-defense and aggression. And the purpose would be to give students confidence, to teach them how to de-escalate situations, how to recognize threats, and how to protect themselves if necessary. But mostly to help them feel less like victims." Principal Green studied her for a long moment. "You know, we've had more bullying incidents reported this year than any year in the past 5. Maybe it's time to try a different approach." "So you'll approve it?" "I'll approve a trial program. 1 afternoon a week, supervised by a faculty member. If it works, we can expand it." The first self-defense workshop was held in the gymnasium. After school on a Wednesday. Sasha had expected maybe 5 or 6 students to show up. Instead, she found herself facing nearly 20 kids, ranging from freshmen to seniors. "Okay," she began, trying to project confidence despite her nerves. "First rule of self-defense, it's not about fighting. It's about awareness, de-escalation, and protection." She started with basic situational awareness, how to read body language, how to identify potential threats, how to position yourself to avoid dangerous situations. Then she moved on to simple techniques, how to break free from a grab, how to create distance, how to escape rather than engage. "Remember," she emphasized repeatedly, "the goal is always to get away safely, not to win a fight." Emily was among the students, taking notes and asking thoughtful questions. So was Lily Adams, who had surprised everyone by showing up. "Why are you here?" Sasha asked Lily during a break. Lily looked uncomfortable. I've been thinking about what you said. About not taking things out on other people. And I realized I've been doing exactly that." "What do you mean?" "I mean I've been so afraid of being on the bottom again that I've been willing to push other people down to stay where I am. But watching you stand up to Jason, double quotes," Lily shrugged. "It made me realize that maybe there's another way." "There is," Sasha said. "There's always another way." But not everyone was supportive of the new program. By the end of the week, rumors were circulating that Sasha was teaching students how to fight, that she was turning the school into some kind of martial arts academy. The rumors traced back to Jason and Kyle, who had been conspicuously absent from the workshops but very present in spreading misinformation about them. "They're trying to get the program shut down," Emily warned Sasha before the second workshop. Jason's been telling people that you're teaching violence. Let them talk, Sasha said. The students who are actually coming to the workshops know what we're really doing. But she could see the effect the rumors were having. A few students who had attended the first workshop didn't return for the second. Others seemed nervous, constantly looking over their shoulders. The final confrontation came not in the parking lot or the hallway, but in the most public place possible, the school cafeteria during lunch on a Friday. Jason stood up at his usual table and called out across the room, "Hey everyone. I think we need to talk about what's really happening with these self-defense classes." The cafeteria gradually quieted as students turned to listen. Sasha, sitting with Ava and Emily, felt her muscles tense. "See, I've been hearing some interesting things," Jason continued, his voice carrying clearly across the room. "About how our new student here is teaching people to fight. About how she's turning our school into some kind of training ground for violence." "That's not true," Emily said loudly, but Jason ignored her. "I mean, we all saw what she did to me in the parking lot. Is that really the kind of person we want teaching our kids how to defend themselves?" Sasha stood up slowly, feeling the weight of every eye in the cafeteria. This was it, the moment she'd been avoiding since she'd first walked through Willowbrook's doors. "You're right," she said, her voice calm but carrying clearly across the room. "We should talk about what really happened in the parking lot." She walked to the center of the cafeteria, aware that she was putting herself in the most vulnerable position possible, surrounded by peers, with no escape route, facing down someone who had every reason to want her gone. "What really happened," she continued, "was that I was walking to my car when 3 people surrounded me. One of them tried to put his hands on me without my permission. I defended myself." Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Jason's face was flushing red. "And what I'm teaching in the self-defense workshops isn't how to fight. It's how to avoid fighting. It's how to recognize dangerous situations, how to de-escalate conflicts, and how to protect yourself when you have no other choice. That's not," Jason started, but Sasha cut him off. "The difference between what I'm teaching and what you've been doing for years is simple," she said, her voice growing stronger. "I'm teaching people how to protect themselves. You've been teaching them that they need to be protected from you." The cafeteria was completely silent now. Even the lunch staff had stopped moving. "I'm teaching confidence. You've been teaching fear. I'm teaching respect. You've been demanding submission." Sasha looked around the room, making eye contact with as many students as possible. Every person in this room has the right to feel safe at school. Every person has the right to walk down the hallway without being afraid. Every person has the right to eat lunch without being harassed. And every person has the right to defend themselves when those rights are threatened. She turned back to Jason, who was staring at her with a mixture of anger and something that might have been admiration. "The workshops will continue," she said. "Anyone who wants to learn how to protect themselves is welcome. Anyone who wants to learn how to resolve conflicts without violence is welcome. Anyone who wants to feel less like a victim is welcome." She paused, letting her words sink in. "But anyone who wants to learn how to hurt others, how to intimidate others, how to make others feel small, those people aren't welcome, because that's not strength. That's just fear wearing a mask." The silence stretched for what felt like hours. Then, slowly, someone started clapping. It was Emily, standing up at her table. Then Ava joined her. Then Lily, surprising everyone by rising from her seat near Jason's table. One by one, students throughout the cafeteria began to applaud. Not everyone, some remained seated, some looked uncomfortable, some clearly disagreed. But enough that the message was clear. Jason looked around at the room, at his followers who were no longer following, at the applause that wasn't for him. For a moment, his mask slipped completely, and Sasha saw the scared, angry boy underneath. Then he walked out of the cafeteria, leaving behind the kingdom he'd built on fear and intimidation. 3 weeks later, Sasha stood in front of the entire school at a specially called assembly. Principal Green had asked her to speak about the anti-bullying initiative and the self-defense program that had grown from a single workshop to a twice-weekly class with over 50 regular participants. "When I first came to Willowbrook," she began, her voice carrying clearly through the auditorium, "I thought the best way to survive was to be invisible. I thought that if I didn't cause trouble, trouble wouldn't find me." She looked out at the sea of faces, finding Ava and Emily in the crowd, seeing Lily sitting with a group of students from the workshops, noting that Jason was absent. "But I learned something important here. Trouble doesn't come to people who cause it. Trouble comes to people who allow it. And the difference between being a victim and being a survivor isn't about being the strongest person in the room. It's about refusing to let anyone else determine your worth." She talked about the workshops, about the importance of confidence and awareness, about the difference between self-defense and aggression. She talked about the responsibility that came with strength, and the courage it took to stand up not just for yourself, but for others. Real strength, she concluded, isn't about defeating your enemies. It's about turning your enemies into allies. It's about creating a world where everyone feels safe, where everyone feels valued, where everyone knows they have the right to defend themselves and the responsibility to protect others. The applause was thunderous and sustained. As Sasha walked off the stage, she felt something she hadn't experienced in years, a sense of belonging, of purpose, of home. Later that afternoon, she found Jason sitting alone in the hallway near the exit, his usual entourage nowhere to be seen. "Good speech," he said without looking up. "Thank you. I've been thinking about what you said, about fear wearing a mask." Sasha sat down beside him, maintaining a careful distance. And I think maybe I've been wearing a mask for so long that I forgot what was underneath it." They sat in silence for a moment, two teenagers who had found themselves on opposite sides of a conflict neither had really wanted. "The workshops are still open," Sasha said finally, "if you're interested." Jason looked at her with surprise. "You'd want me there?" "I think everyone deserves a chance to learn how to be strong without making others feel weak." "I don't know if I'm ready for that yet." "That's okay," Sasha said. "The offer stands." As she walked toward her father's car, Sasha reflected on the journey that had brought her here. She'd started as the invisible new girl, trying to hide from a world that seemed determined to hurt her. She'd discovered that true strength wasn't about the ability to fight, but about the courage to stand up for what was right. She'd learned that leadership wasn't about dominating others, but about empowering them. She'd found that the best way to defeat bullies wasn't to become one yourself, but to show them a better way to be strong. Most importantly, she'd discovered that home wasn't a place you found, it was a place you created. One relationship at a time, one stand at a time, one moment of courage at a time. For the first time in her life, Sasha Taylor was exactly where she belonged. Up next we have 2 more incredible stories that are waiting for you. Just click the image you want to watch and it will take you there. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to subscribe. It would mean a lot.